good. So the reason why all we do is we see Winston is because Winston just works better with Sombra Tracer. Metas are created by defining heroes. The defining heroes for the meta are Tracer, Sombra. And the reason they're the defining heroes in the meta is because they have high skill ceilings and that the other high skill ceiling heroes aren't very good. And there are two. So then you pick Winston, Sombra, you're going to play Winston. Or maybe you will play. Are we really about to have a whole nother season of Sombra meta? More Winston, Sombra, Risa, whatever. And this is not a surprise to anybody paying attention because the casting made changes really had zero impact on the heroes whatsoever at the pro level. In fact, they were kind of indirect nerfs. So the idea here is that we basically just see more of the same. And people were like freaking out. Now, I made a tweet, and I want to go through each one of my points before I look at everybody else's stuff, okay? This past stage was really quite... So first off, okay, so this past stage in Overwatch League, outside of the top teams towards the end, and even the top teams early on, there was a decent amount of variety in the heroes that we saw. We saw one of the more diverse Overwatch League metas that we've seen in a long time. Let's not gaslight ourselves into thinking that, oh, this past meta was really, really stale. It wasn't until the end. Now, that's normal for Overwatch League. Generally, things start off pretty diverse and then kind of tunnel at the end. But overall, I think teams did a pretty good job keeping it fresh for the most part, considering how much time the stage lasted. It lasted for months. So I think it was one of the best, most diverse OWL stages we've had in a long time, up until the very, very, very end at the top tiers, the top teams, okay? Now, I understand the argument that the top teams at the end were all basically playing the same composition. Agreed. So let's keep talking. The lack of adjustments to the pro meta isn't surprising to anyone paying attention to the casting made changes that they were the worst patches. Okay, so yeah, anyway. The problem is that we had several patches where the only real change was the Junker Queen change. And where a lot of things didn't really matter. No real significant support changes besides a lot of Life Weaver foolishness that really never went anywhere. A new hero that literally had zero impact on the pro meta whatsoever, which is the first in... I mean, when's the last time of chat have we had a new hero that's had zero impact on the pro meta? Maybe Ball? I think Ball was the last time that we've ever had that. Echo, Sojourn, Kiriko, Junker Queen, Ramatra. Oh, yes, Ashe to a lesser extent. Yeah, Ashe and Ball. Yeah. It's been a long time. Yeah, so Life Weaver did literally nothing. So zero impact on the meta whatsoever. Okay, not to mention all the other changes that we went through that just didn't do anything. They did, like DPS is not in a good state right now. People are freaking out about Sombra, and yet not only is she a high skill ceiling hero at the pro level, which is why, you know, she's more rewarding to play, similarly to Tracer, but also there's just a lot of really bad DPS right now. Like if we pull up we'll get to that in a second. I'm just gonna pull this window up, but yeah. Anyway, not a lot of great changes, okay? In terms of I'm not even saying like good or bad changes, just a lot of nothing changed really. Like we said, the major problem with Sombra is that many DPS are the weakest they've been in quite a while, and at least the last man standing situation with the Tracer Sombra who are going to synergize the monkey honor break the best, no surprise. So if you look at our DPS cast right now at the Overwatch League level, what heroes are jokes? Okay, and this is going to be quite the cornucopia. Joke. You heard me right. This hero is a joke. Way too squishy right now. I wouldn't say Genji's necessarily a joke, but we'll give him a half joke. Okay. Kind of a joke. You know what? Actually, let's go. Let's not be dishonest here. Mostly a joke. Total joke. Mostly a joke. Very niche. Total joke. I don't even talk to me about Yazin. It's taking niche to the extreme. Let's put it that way. Bar actually has a very, very, very high value ceiling if played legitimately perfectly, and everything you do is like revolving around her. Basically a total joke. Again, super obscure niche. This here was not... I actually think... This might be a hot take, but I actually don't think Sojourn, like, up until today's changes, was, like, really good at all. I think she was quite terrible. Joke. Joke. This is what we're left working with. Okay? So why... And this hero got nerfed, right? And also doesn't work as well with Sombra Tracer that are reasonably well. This hero is okay. So basically, what I'm left asking is, why are Ashe Echo not being played in Overwatch League as much as they were? You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where we can have a legitimate conversation. Where's Ashe? Where's Echo? I guess to a lesser extent, where's Genji and Sojourn? But you guys notice something, that none of these heroes received any buffs at all during the stage. Nothing. In fact, this hero got put into dumpster tier. This hero got a ghost buff, but still struggles immensely. This hero has received essentially nothing. This hero got freaking nerfed! They nerfed the Bob regeneration. They nerfed Ashe. Meanwhile, this hero, while not being top tier, got a couple of small buffs. Being able to cancel Blizzard, she got a slight damage buff, things like that. So yes, I agree. Sombra is really strong in a pro dive meta. You are 100% in agreement with this. But also her competition has never been weaker. Never been weaker. The other heroes are basically only picked if the synergy or the setup is perfect, right? So that's basically what we're dealing with. So why are we sitting here and like, oh, Sombra, the OWL meta is stay? Well, yeah. Even if you're being generous, half the cast is not legitimate to play. And that's the problem, right? I don't want to go into another Overwatch 2 balance video, which I already made one of those. You could check it out on my YouTube channel. But I talk about how like there are so many heroes in the cast that are just, right, pub stompers. They're noob stompers, where they do have a value ceiling up to Grandmaster, but beyond Grandmaster, the return, and even getting to Grandmaster, it's easier for some heroes than it is for others, and then the ceiling stops. The return on investment stops. What can Overwatch League Torb player do versus a Tracer? Where is the skill expression with Torb compared to Tracer, or compared to Sombra, or compared to a mechanical hero like Widowmaker? You know what I'm saying? That's the problem. You could squeeze so much more value out of these heroes, or at least should be able to out of these weaker heroes, than you can out of so many of these heroes. There's only so much that you can do. And I think the same also applies to support as well, right? You talk about like blacklisting people in here. Like this hero is actually pretty strong, but even still, there's only so much value that you can actually get out of a Moira, right? There's only certain circumstances where you can play a Moira. On and break, much more flexible. This hero, absolute garbage. And you guys ready for a hot take? I talked about this one on Reddit. This hero is also extremely niche, not very flexible. His abilities are terrible. Terrible in Overwatch 2, and anything that's not a brawl meta, right? So the only supports that have any sort of like nuance or flexibility, and by the way, this guy's started to slowly fall out of favor as well, are these, right? Not because On and Brig are busted. Stop gaslighting yourself into saying that. These guys don't have enough skill expression at higher levels. And to a lesser extent, this guy as well. This is the problem. It's been a problem for a long time. And it's just, but it hasn't been changed. Now, tanks, everyone complains about Winston. Guys, I get it that there are heroes like this. And I'm also of the opinion that guys like this, and that whatever this abomination is, right? But I actually think tank balance is not terrible. Now, I know this is spicy, but it's not terrible. Doomfist needs love, 100%. Doomfist needs love. I think probably Sigma also needs a little bit of love. Not to lean into his strengths. He's already good at his strengths. Spam mirrors on Circuit Royale, you're playing Sigma, right? But needs some love here and there, right? But I actually think tank balance is pretty good. So the reason why all we do is we see Winston is because Winston just works better with Sombra Tracer. Metas are created by defining heroes. The defining heroes for the meta are Tracer, Sombra. And the reason they're the defining heroes in the meta is because they have high skill ceilings, and that the other high skill ceiling heroes aren't very good. And there are two. So then you pick Winston, Sombra, you're going to play Winston. Or maybe you will play Diva. That's it. It's not because Ball is bad. It's just because Ball doesn't work as well with Sombra Tracer. Now, wait. Ball could work with Sombra Tracer if you had Brig Zen, but Zen isn't very strong right now, at least at the pro level, and when compared to On. So there's all these little details. All these little details. It also doesn't help that ball is a little bit trickier, and more of the tanks have more experience playing Winston than they do at playing ball. So I guess my point being is that this is a very complicated discussion. And to me, the number one problem is that, at least especially in the damage and the support category, there are too many heroes that don't have any impact on the meta whatsoever. There are too many heroes that do not have an impact on the meta whatsoever. And if we include all of the heroes, tank, DPS, I mean, how many heroes are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 37 heroes. How many heroes don't have an impact on the pro Overwatch League meta? 1. I'm gonna be very, very harsh here. 2. 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, to an extent 12, and you could really expand this to 15, 16, 17 even, if you're being like really, really picky. I mean, that's like half the cast. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. The reason why I'm making this discussion so like a priority for me is because I don't want to see another Nerf Winston comment ever again. And I don't really want to see another Nerf Tracer comment either. It is a completely inaccurate way of looking at how metas are actually shifted. And it would be an actively stupid thing for the game. Now, based off of that, Junkbuck's tweet, last year Nerf Tracer, we had a variety of comps with Tracer still being used. Hawk jumps in, says, this is fake news. Genji and every other dive tank were significantly nerfed to what they were pre-launch. Winston is the only tank in the game that is a useful fast and will be able to block everything in the game. People were playing a lot of D.will double flex support, Tracer, Sombra before. Both his heroes are instantly nerfing kill for play since the launch, but you could actually kill things in D.Va then while Zarya is making the farm grabs. Okay, so basically, yes, Tracer was nerfed. We see more DPS, okay? However, you have to be very careful about what DPS you're looking for here. The problem with Tracer being nerfed is often that we see DPS that we don't want to see. That's the problem. What's going to happen when we nerf Tracer? Are we going to have another Reaper meta? I mean, that's immediately what happened. We get a Reaper meta, right? And then immediately they nerf Genji, right? Genji meta was fine. The problem is that if you nerf Tracer, who's going to be played instead? And you got to be really careful about what happens there. Right? I would love to see more Genji or Echo. So if we're going to nerf Tracer, you better not just nerf Tracer and see what happens. Because you know what's going to happen. Again, why are we punishing Tracer and Winston for being well-designed, well-balanced, rewarding, skill-ceiling heroes? Instead of, what it feels like is people want to throw stones at those heroes instead of actually giving other heroes that same level of love. I have told you over and over again why Genji deserves to be an S-tier played hero if they would just shift his power away from his nano blade and into either naked blade or his neutral. It's not hard. Shift it away from the cheese aspect, make it harder to get value out of a damage boosted blade or even impossible, and make the other more skillful aspects of his kit more rewarding, even meta. Same thing went with Sojourn. Everybody freaking hated the fact that you could just rail and build rail instantly and just spam. So make the movement, make the mouse one a little bit more rewarding and positioning more rewarding, right? Why are we giving Mei a more stupid CC that's not going to be rewarding instead of improving the nuances of her character, giving more skill expression? You know? And here's another one. Echo's a freaking amazing hero. However, the only reason that Echo is a big problem is when she's married to a Mercy damage boost. And then we have a really, really annoying hero to play against. So is there a way that we could fix that? These are the questions that we have to answer if we want a healthy meta. And this is not only going to be helpful for pro meta, this is going to be helpful for the casuals as well. This is the discussions that we need to be having. You think everyone to be balanced at the level of Tracer and Winston? No, I don't think it's reasonable, but I do think it's something that we should aspire for. I really do. Even if you let Junkrat remain kind of a brain dead character, surely adding more nuance to the character would be fine, right? Look at what they did with Moira. If you're okay, fine, leave Moira as like a trash tier noob stomper, but being able to fade during Cole and increasing her heal over time and letting Damage Orb actually regenerate your healing resources. I don't like Moira. I don't want Moira to be powerful, but those all three were good changes that added a little bit extra skill expression to the hero and allowed her to be played at Overwatch League in certain metas because they were skill expressions. Better spray management, better orb decision making, having fade available. Like these are good things, I think. I don't like Moira. Hey, Amir. but that's at least the direction you want to go. Why don't we do that with Junkrat? Why don't we do that with Junkrat? Sure, I don't know what it would be with Junkrat, but that's where the direction you have to go. For example, remember we talked about Pharah not too long ago, where like remove her ability to permanently fly and make her more like a bouncing mobility hero, like a jetpack hero, right? Music? What music? Oh, the night buffing. Yeah. Yeah, like Soldier from TF2, but now Pharah. Exactly. People do Pharah, from what I know, Pharah was literally designed around Soldier from TF2. From what I know, in beta, people cry that they're like, oh, you should make her permanently fly. Yeah. Make her an actual dive hero. That doesn't need a mercy pocket, right? These are the things that we need to find. We need to fix. And to give credit, I do feel like they're trying here and there, right? I think what they did today with these heroes was reasonable, right? I mean, was it perfect? No, but it's reasonable. It just, there's so many misses elsewhere, you know? So this is why I wanted to piggyback these two conversations together, because I think they're inherently entwined, right? Right. Even the Bastion thing is a problem, right? I mean, it's getting there, but I think like having the turret form exist in its current state is just never going to be fun. I know people are going to complain, oh, I want the turret form, but like it's just not fun. And the problem is that a lot of people, okay, here's the problem with the argument. All right, you guys, how many times have you guys heard that we need to let noob heroes be noob heroes? Raise your hand, right? How many times you guys said stop trying to fix Bastion and Junkrat and Moira, let the heroes be strong in lower ranks, right? Okay, now wait for this. Wait for it. How many of you guys have actually played in lower ranks? I have. I was in bronze, silver, and gold, and plat for like a year and a half back in the day. Chat, what heroes are unbelievably frustrating to play against in lower ranks? What heroes are the least fun to play with and versus? You see what I'm saying? Bastion, Reaper. So if we really care about lower ranks, we'll address the fact that these heroes are too easy to get value out of in lower ranks. And like that, if you really cared about lower ranks, you'd do what I would say. Boosted Pharah? Yeah. You would nerf the weaker heroes in lower ranks, but buff their capability to perform in higher ranks so that lower ranks wouldn't get turbo stomped by the most brain dead heroes every game. Do you know what I'm saying? Do I think the Torb and Sim changes are in the right direction? I think they have potential, yeah. I guess just bronze, silver, gold would be my lower ranks. Anything that's below average. I think high gold is technically average, or mid gold. But that the argument just doesn't hold water at all, because nobody cares about, like, the pros don't want Bastion to be bad necessarily just for higher ranks. It's also doing lower ranks a favor. Thoughts on multi-patch system for different ranks? I don't think it's necessary. I really don't think it's necessary. I think like Tracer is really hard to play in lower ranks, right? That's how it should be, right? And I'm not saying that everything has to be like some super advanced level character, but I do think that like, oh, that we need to have easier is a really, really silly. Like, here's a great example. Look at Ana. Ana is not what I would say a super hard support to play necessarily, but she scales really well, right? And I guess to an extent that applies to something like a Reinhardt or a Winston as well. They scale really well. You know, you have a general idea of what you're doing in silver or gold, you'll do all right, and then that will scale well as you rank up. You know, so like, why are we so scared of making better? And again, I'm not saying nerf Junkrat. I'm saying nerf and buff Junkrat. Create a skill curve here for these heroes, like there is with Tracer and Sombra, like there is with Sojourn. Is there a noob crusher tank? I mean, maybe Orisa. I think Orisa maybe a little bit, but I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure, to be honest. Ramatra, yeah, Ramatra's a good shout. Yeah, Ramatra. So yeah, I hope this all makes sense. Like I'm trying to find. I think that my opinion is that I don't think that pro balance and bronze balance are that far apart. Bronze players hate Junkrat. Guess what? Pro players do too. Bronze players don't like the fact that Moira can just throw healing and coalescence, and pros don't like it either. Now they might like it for different reasons or hate it for different reasons, but it's similar, you know? Anyway. I don't know. Pros hate pharmacy. Bronze players hate pharmacy. And the solution is the same for both. Why doesn't Sombra's pro value translate to ladder? Because she's an extremely high skill ceiling hero. So it demands not just GM level Sombra play, but beyond GM level Sombra play. Like, you've got to be really good at the hero. And then communication, coordination, and are like the two extra values out of Sombra that you can get in ranked, just not quite as much. Things like ping and perma scouting are really powerful. And there's also a good argument, like Alindiel is saying, that Lip is just so much better at Sombra compared to everybody else, that we've all got our Lip goggles on. Lip is arguably right now one of the biggest gaps in hero competence in Overwatch League ever. More so than even Jonak was then. I'm trying to think if there's any guy. I think we had this discussion. Maybe Ons on Widowmaker was just so much better than everybody else. With the meta, we will have to wait and see if the Sojourn change has any impact. Now, what might happen is with a Sojourn change, that might shift the support meta to be more Lucio. May or may not, because Brig does help the Sojourn off angle a lot easier, but with a Sojourn, your Ana is less vulnerable to being dove, and so doesn't need the Brig as much, and Sojourn already has her own peel with shift. So you could see something like Brig falls out of the meta just because Sojourn becomes more meta defining. And then but we'd still see Winston because Winston's the best hero for dealing with Sojourn. The problem is that Winston keeps lining up with the DPS heroes of choice. That's the problem. That's the problem.